Right, got to try and knock this off before I forget it. It's Saturday night, back at my room. We had the last ceremony last night, which was ceremony number 45 for me. And it was absolutely unbelievable, completely amazing. About my path for the future, but I'm not going to talk about that too much, or rather, I don't want to kind of go into the depth that Mama did with me, because I don't want to kind of jinx it in a way. But it was very clear. So where shall I start? Maybe I'll start with this morning after the ceremony, for a couple of things that were said that were interesting with Colin and Brandon. They've flown out this afternoon or this evening, and so we had a nice morning in Iquitos. We all went for lunch at the Café Dawn, but we had breakfast in the retreat, and when we came down to breakfast, it was just the three of us again. Because Pam and Carlos were washing and shit, and Pam was nice this morning. She was, because quite a lot of things happened. Because after, I'll have to go back to the previous ceremony, because obviously that strangeness with my irritability. Well, when the shaman spoke to Pam and Carlos, apparently they said that they felt uncomfortable with my energy. And that's hardly surprising, because when I went and spoke to Gino and Maestro and explained to Gino what happened, he was pretty mind blown about my whole experience. But when I said what had happened to him, and then when we got to talk to the shaman, to Hiro, just me and Gino and Lady in the Maloka listening, Gino said, and explained to Maestro that I thought that they were shamans and this sort of thing, and with what they were doing, smoking made me uncomfortable and stuff. And he said, oh, that's funny. He said, because they said the same about you. They felt really uncomfortable with your energy. And then I said, well, that's really unsurprising considering the mood I was in because of what was happening. But I'd already explained to Hiro and to Gino to explain to Hiro that it all came out in the wash, and I didn't think that I was just explaining what had gone on. And he said something else weird happened. He said that because Maestro in that ceremony had to leave the room at one point because he felt nauseous because of the energies in the room. And Gino had said that he thought that was them, because obviously I've worked a lot with Hiro. He's my, he's doing my dietas. So, but obviously I think it was just purely my mood that night. Everybody must have felt it. So it was probably me driving that discomfort for people, not Pamela and Carlos. But anyway, so it was interesting, strange stuff going on there. And just goes to show what levels of energy can be generated with people vomiting, or people in, like I was, which I've never been before, in really fucking terrible mood, and when everyone's sensitive. So anyway, that kind of it spilled over to yesterday's chat. Well, this morning, it was sort of the opposite. But again, energies. Brandon's really interesting because for only 3 ceremonies, he said he had amazing experience last night. Mama, he's had great ceremonies because he's very clean and he's had massive insights and a really wonderful sort of just wonderful experiences. And he said to me at breakfast this morning, he said he had an amazing experience where Mama was trying to teach him, or he hasn't met Mama as such. He's just getting these, well, whatever, he didn't say Mama, but basically getting taught that, or just these inferences about projecting energies of love and making people feel okay. And he said that he could actually see everyone's spirit in the Maloka last night that he was sending love to. And he also saw sort of wandering, sort of floating through a scape and seeing like a person in the street whose then face was all not, he couldn't quite make it out, but he thought that they were like a soul or a spirit, but was also about to die. And then he saw his grandmother, who's still alive, in a home back in California or wherever she is, in pain. And he was trying to send love and asking God, because he hasn't met Mama Ayahuasca yet, so he still probably perceives the transcendental as God for his religious background. But anyway, detail, it's not important. So, but when he said he was trying to just, in the ceremony, feeling really good and wanted to project love and support within the ceremony to everybody in there, which was me, Joshua, Colin, and himself, and Maestro doing the ceremony, with Gino and Lady guarding. He said that he could see everyone's spirit except mine. And when he was talking about these realms, and then I told him already about my amazing experience. So I'll have to describe that first and then come back to why Colin couldn't see my spirit, because I think there's a very good reason why, as the story will unfold. So anyway, the start of the ceremony, pretty big cup, 50%. Drank that. Again, nothing happened. And now I know what it is. It's because I am so unbelievably clean, physically and spiritually. Think in terms of when a shaman drinks a little bit of ayahuasca for the ceremony, so he can see people's energies. You don't want a shaman feeling ill or bad from ayahuasca unless he's dealing with energies, because obviously he's already been through that level of training to be able to take ayahuasca and not feel shit on it, because he's got 4 hours of ceremony to sing through and control energies. So there's the hint, right? of what's been going on. And I didn't know any of this early on in the ceremony. As far as thinking in those terms, it's only dawned on me today, thinking about last night, which was truly unbelievably incredible for me. So drank this first cup, nothing happens. Colin, I think, I'm trying to think when they vomited. I mean, Colin vomited first, halfway through the first hour, because after the first cup, it's about 2 Icaros worth of singing with a gap in the middle. And then after the second Icaro, a little gap, pause, offer of the second cup. It's about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2. So again, I'm lying there, not really feeling anything, thinking, I just know what's going to happen. You know, I have to take the second cup, and then I go blast it off, even with just a tiny sip. So anyway, Colin vomits quite heavily. Then before the second cup, Brandon vomits. And I think, because Joshua does his usual. He just has 1 full cup. He doesn't do a second one. So at some point, he vomited really heavily, a real heavy one, but probably after our second cup. I think it was. But anyway, it's just detail again. Doesn't really matter for the context of this ceremony. But it was a heavy one. And so when everyone's vomiting, I'm just lighting my fire. You know, in my imagination, I hadn't really come up, just sort of like staying in my little protective bubble and like maybe putting my psychic arm out in my mind to like blast negative energy in Colin's bucket and spray over him, like boof, get rid of the dark energy. Same with Brandon when he vomited. Certainly with fucking Joshua when he vomited. Oh fuck, I'm not that's fucking heavy shit coming out of Joshua as usual. Because we've spoken about it. We think because he talks to so many people such a nice way, and he's supportive, and he probably takes on some of their stuff, which then becomes dark energy that he's transferred to himself. Almost a bit shamanic, really, but he doesn't know how to get rid of it, or he's not aware in a shamanic sense of doing it, although we have had this conversation that he's taken on, and then it just gives Maestro even more negative energy because he's got not just his own, he's got other people's, plus what's coming out in the ceremony itself that night, and it's more for Maestro because Maestro's due for a clean. He's having a month off to the next 2 week session. His brother's going to be doing the next 2 weeks. And so he's got a full month off, which is while I'm away anyway. So it's all worked out pretty well. So anyway, basically that's all straightforward up to this point. Second cup comes. It's another big one for me, probably 50% again. But I'm thinking we've got to be up this morning to leave. We've got to be up, down to breakfast for 9, on the boat for around 10. I'm thinking, I don't want to risk the heavy one, but I thought, fuck it. It's also my last one for a long time. I'll go with what Maestro gives me, and fuck it. It's just part of handling it. You'll still get done. It's, get up in the morning or all that sort of stuff. If I don't sleep, I don't sleep. I've got all day to rest once I get back, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to make it a good one. And I had just a really good feeling about it. And before I made the ceremony, I was thinking, I've got to do this. I just really want to get that separation happening that's been bubbling for the last few retreats. Because after the last one was so strange, but came out in the wash, they're getting so powerful, but with a fantastic relationship with Mama. So much has happened to me in the last 3 months. It's been unbelievable. The cleansing's been incredible. I've never felt so clean. Everyone's saying how well I look. I know I'm looking a bit thin because obviously just on a dieta. Apart from the sunburn, sore lips are sore. But Herman downstairs said, I'm looking really well. And I'm feeling absolutely fucking fantastic. I just feel so clean and so pure. And of course, this was yet another key event because of that cleanliness. So the second cup, drank that. Tiny little bit left in the bottom, but drank the bulk of it. Thought, no, I want to make sure I'm just going to trip and try and whatever I get out of this ceremony. If I can after all this meditation stuff with coming into Mama, and she's saying, come into me, become one with me and stuff in the meditation sense for escaping the body for an exercise during the day and in ceremony. I'm thinking, let's just see if we can go with that, not in the sense of before, like the Dr. Cito's, where that's like a sort of a primitive attempt at it, just a little swimming. And then the other one where she brought me into the transcendental space, and I did have a moment away from that nasty anxiety in the last ceremony where it was all anxiety and the test for a reminder of how far I've come, that I don't suffer anxiety or fear in my real life since March. And then she reminded me about going away, and obviously I'm going to be away for a while. I'm going to pick up, negative energy. There's going to be temptations in Brazil, whatever might happen. So anyway, this was like another sort of farewell gift, but with the indication of future path, which is she's going to do everything that she can to sort immigration out, keeping our fingers crossed, but really, don't worry about it, Steve. Just go have your holiday. We'll deal with it when it comes, but if all goes well, you'll be coming back and continuing, do another 3 months of dietas for a very good reason. And she basically told me, and she showed me images of like the dietas I've done and the experiences I've had, and showing me the insight into a little taster in the previous ceremony where I had that taste of shamanic level kind of experience. And then she's kind of waiting for the penny to drop when we were counting up sort of how many dietas I've done and how amazing the combination of my dietas with ayahuasca has been, to where I'm absolutely loving it now. Because this ceremony, big drink, nothing happens. Second drink, starting to come up, faint fractals, but no discomfort, no feeling sick at all. Where it's like, wow, this is a milestone. How clean am I getting? The Cambo didn't faze me. This is cleanliness. And then she's waiting for the penny to drop and go, you realize you've been doing dietas, but that is the shamanic path. It doesn't have to be. Not to say that that's what I'm going to be by any stretch. It's just saying you've done these dietas. You're on 5 now, and you've done 3 in the last 3 months. Well, 4, just completed the 4th, Bobinsana, the last one. So in 3 months, I've done 4 dietas in 2-week blocks. Now this tied in when I was doing the dieta for Uchu Sanango with Maestro alone in the other lodge, and we were chatting one night, and I was asking him, because obviously when I read my Mircea Eliade book, that's all extreme, all these different paths to shamanism, and a lot of them, and in the previous book I read at the temple with the Inuit Indians, they go to a point of death. And she put it in perspective about what my life has been, how many times I've died, having cancer, so many illnesses. She's saying, and how many times I died, the state I was in. When I arrived, like I said in the last video, the state I arrived in, I was riddled with the spiritual cancer. They pummeled me to absolute fuck and taken my life so many times, tried. And Mama's saying that, we had to step in so many times to save you. And saying, it's remarkable. But the state you were in when you came to Peru, this is why it's taken so long and so many ceremonies to get you clean. And it's remarkable that your innate talent, your innate skill set of being able to handle what you've handled, it is special. So waiting for the penny to drop, and then it did, and in this, fuck, no, really? I said, you've been doing shamanic level dietas up to this point. It wasn't. It's like a lesser version, because of obviously, again, so that these surprises happen. When I spoke to Clementina about hers, and they say, some of the ones we do are 3 months long, and Shipibo getting to the point of starvation. I said, and when I spoke to Maestro Jairo at the dieta that I did with him alone, with his family, and I was asking him about his procedure, but of course I didn't have the Spanish to really go into details. But I asked him about his shamanic dietas, explaining Clementina that they'd done 3 months. I said, how long are yours? And he said, I do 2 weeks, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I'm thinking that's nowhere near sort of what Clementina said. Thinking, well, according to him, it doesn't have to be this really fucking harsh stuff. Probably if you've got the right shaman who's teaching you, which was his own father. Because so of course he's been my teacher for the last 3 months. And of course he's fucking amazing, and he's real. He's not the con man like fucking arsehole that I had, the second one, Mr. Ripoff, etc. It just goes to show, and this is why I love plant medicines compared to the other methods of shamanism. They don't have to kill animals or break fucking horses' backs and all this, and freeze people in the Arctic and freeze Red Indians in caves when they're 16 and getting to the point of starvation and all that. Yes, it works in that particular culture with the way they do things, but down here in Peru, in the Amazon, it's plant-based, It's just smooth, like you'd expect the plant medicines to be smooth. Yes, they can be tough on you, like ayahuasca and stuff, but it's not focused on a physical hardship in the sense of being taken to points of starvation or illness, having an illness, like a serious, deadly illness that you come back from the brink from. So then once the penny dropped, and then of course she just unfolded the path in breaking Brazil. That's all we're going to see as far ahead. 3 months back. If you get your visa back and you get 3 months, you'll be back at the retreat. Continue the cleanliness. And then, so I'm just bathing in energy now. These energy waves I explained in the last one, sitting in this river of energy, spiritual energy, cleaning, with the odd waves again that are even now getting more handleable. After the oof, it's like, know what it is. I feel it, and it's strong, and it's disorientating. But you're just going, yeah. And I really I'm starting to enjoy it because I'm feeling myself as the spiritual entity that's in the spiritual cleaning energy of the plant spirits and the cleaning spirits that are brought to bear on your being in an ayahuasca ceremony. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's uncomfortable in many respects, like strange vibrations, low frequency vibrations through your body. And also, this was another interesting thing before I tell the main part that's just fucking mind-blowing. When the boats go up the river, you can hear them miles away. Obviously they're just really simple engines, fucking diesel engines, and they come, you can hear them at both ends of the river, and they go past the lodge, really heavy. And these are normal sound vibrations coming through the ground, but there's like a different type of vibration that's quite disconcerting. It's a bit uncomfortable. That's spiritual vibration that's along when these boats are going past as well. And I've been wondering about this because some people have said, "Oh, did you feel the vibrations, in the Maloka last night or whatever?" And like sometimes I have, and sometimes I've said to them, "Did you feel vibrations last night?" Yeah. They've said, "Yeah" or "No." But it's not necessarily when the boat's there, but sometimes when they are, you get these other vibrations as well. You know the difference between the boat vibrations and these other vibrations, because I had them in bed last night when there was a boat going by, but they're different, and they feel like your body's trembling. And Mama said, sort of partly about, we were talking about mushrooms and mycelium and all this sort of stuff, and the fantastic fungus documentary on YouTube by Paul Stamets, which is a beautiful, if you haven't seen it, sign up for YouTube, for Netflix rather, and watch 2 documentaries. That's The Octopus, my teacher the octopus, because that's a beautiful documentary, and Fabulous Fungi, Hongos Fantásticos in Spanish. And Mama was saying, I've spoken to you before about mycelium and mushrooms, and sort of just what am I thinking of? Sorry, I'm tired. Only got 2 or 3 hours sleep last night, so I'm knackered. And of course now it's gone 11 o'clock. It's 11:30 at night or something, and I've been up all day with maybe 1 hour's half dozing Kit back here in the room after a meal in the Amazon Dawn with the lads before they were shopping, and then seeing them off to the airport. So I'm pretty tired. So I'm lost track. But basically, in a previous ceremony, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I don't think I did, Mama was saying about Gaia, imagining the spirit of Gaia, who's almost her sister, who is basically the goddess of the earth, which Mama oversees all life on earth, but Gaia is kind of more local. to the earth itself on a more biological. Mama's more all life, if you like. Gaia particularly sensitive and protective of the Amazon, and saying about these boats coming up. Technology, she doesn't like it. These low frequency energies transmit through the earth. The mycelium pick it up, the trees pick it up, they don't like it. When you're spiritually open, you're feeling their reaction to human technology and machinery and destructive fuel sources like the combustion engine. And you're picking up a bit of that. So that was just an interesting aside. Wasn't sort of completely convinced that that's what it is, but anyway, it was just something. So anyway, this really, I'm taking off at various points in the night. I'm getting really spiritually just in a higher space, a higher frequency again. Conversations with Mama and very fine fractals, no really big visions. But what was there was consistent. And then at one point, these kind of, they form into like a circle with movement, like pure energy. I'm seeing two blobs of like pure energy. And then slowly, one morphs in, they both start to morph into a facial figure of some kind. But one more than the other. As the other faded away and I'm concentrating on the other one, it kind of formed a bit of a face, and it was like it was checking me out. Just curiosity. But then it formed, and just for a minute, it formed, I can't think of the god's name, the Indian god that's the elephant head. It kind of went into a bit of an elephant with a trunk, and I can't think of that Indian god's name. I'll have to look it up on Google in a minute. And then we were in this space, and I kind of turned around. I was aware that while this was going on, Mama's behind me. And sometimes I can, it's weird. She doesn't have to, because you obviously haven't got normal vision. You've got different types of vision. Your vision, or the vision she's showing you, can be from your perspective, looking behind you, things like that, and changing. So you're aware of kind of what's behind you if it was real 3D space, which it isn't, because you're a spiritual body and dimensions don't relate in the same way as here. It's complicated, and it's weird. But in that sense, you've got spiritual awareness. So when she's showing you visions, you've got multiple dimensional kind of vision at the same time, aware of what's behind you, maybe. So I was aware Mama's behind me, and I've got an image of Mama, very, very similar to the first time I met her, which seems she uses this guise a lot, which is almost where the big wigs come from, because it's part of her corona, the sort of patterns like a crown that she wears, and she's big with sort of regal, fractal kind of stuff, but it's not very clear. It's not vivid and crystal clear or anything and colorful. It's kind of vague and darkish, and I just can't really explain it. So I'm aware she's behind me, and then she's saying, this God, as it turned out to be, is kind of in front of me now with this other one that didn't quite appear properly, as if they had spaces where they would be in this meeting area. And the first one was much clearer, but not clear at all, but clearer than anything else. Not as clear as Mama even. So I'm kind of turned around and looked at Mama, and she's looking just pretty much, not exactly the same, but similar enough to what she looked like when she first introduced herself to me on my third ceremony at Kapatari, after all the fucking nightmare that we had with possessed, through the possession stuff. So I think that's probably why, I deserved to kind of meet her. It was required to suffer that, and then you got to have something else to kind of have the light and explain to you. So anyway, but now it makes even more sense why she did. Explaining, as she has in many previous ceremonies, about right from birth, what my path was and why. Because of these traits, the ability to handle what I've handled. So, of course, I'm thinking, wow, this is fucking just too much now, you know, this is unbelievable. Because I had suspicions about it in the past and then dismissed them and thought, just fucking sometimes, you know. And with the cleaning and that cynicism that's always been there until she worked on that, the irritation and the anger, I feel so much better after that last ceremony. Just so much, like, again, another major thing has been removed after that, you know, piece of the subconscious. That major part of trauma was identified in the dark subconscious. Feel just wonderful after. And after this ceremony, I'm on fucking cloud 9 because I literally was. So I've got Mama in this space and she's explaining that these other entities are like her and they are the gods of antiquity. And she said, you're in our realm now. This is how clean you've become. You can come into our realm. I mean, obviously I've been with her loads of times and that's her realm, but she's isolated, but to share it with these other two entities. And when she said, there are others, but we'll meet them. We're not ready to meet those yet. We'll meet them in another time. So just the one. There was no conversation or anything. There was just this period of time where I was in this space. And the sense of being bathed in this spiritual energy that's cleaning me, but being able to be just at home in it. Like it's just wonderful. And she said, Steve, this is what humans through all of prehistory that are spiritually advanced, who've also come to this level, this is what they call second sight. And I'm like, fucking hell, man, this is just, she said, and it's a pantheon of gods at this level. So all of like the Indian tradition with their different gods, that's correct. They might look slightly different, but but the elephant one, probably giving a clue as to that same entity, seen a bit different by me, but just to give a clue that maybe that's the same. Not definitive, but access to the world, the spiritual world of gods. And I'm fucking blown away now. And when I told Gino the next day, but hang on now, where where I've been, coming back to Brandon's situation, when he was telling me this morning, I just mentioned mine about getting into this spiritual world, and then he told me his fantastic vision. I was really impressed. I said, what, your third ceremony, she's already teaching you to project energy to other people with love. I'm impressed. That's advanced. She's never done that with me because I was been too dirty probably. And again, different path, shows different levels of people's traits, what they are, how they're handled by Mama Ayahuasca. And he hasn't even got the link yet, but he's being shown. He's not aware. He hasn't had a conversation with her introducing herself visually, so he knows that he's talking to a Mama Ayahuasca entity, whichever form she takes. So just look, it's got 34 minutes, but stops at 45. Maybe that's the limit on the memory, so I've probably only got 10 minutes left. But anyway, we're there pretty much, because basically how this comes full circle is going back to what he said. When he was trying to just, at one point in the ceremony, he was feeling generous, and because of, everyone, me and him, Colin got on fantastically because he's a lovely guy and he was so easy to get on with and so easy to talk to and so open. And when he said he was being able to see other people's spirits, again, something I've always been envious of other people being able to see energy and stuff like that. Never been able to do it. It's like dowsing. I've never been given this gift. So anyway, when he's saying I could see everyone's energy, Joshua, Maestro, Colin, but I couldn't see yours. So he was curious. So in his vision, he saw a vision of Maestro and asked Maestro, I can see everyone's spirit, but except Steve's. Why not? And apparently Maestro just said to him, oh, where Steve's where he is in the spirit world, he's sleeping. So, of course, I'm smiling at this point because the pennies dropped already because I knew what was going on. It was just an explanation for me. And I said, well, what you said earlier about seeing low light, like this guy as if his ghost, almost a street person whose face you can't really make out, who gave you the impression that his soul is about to die. So obviously spirits can't die, but explained my original experiences where right at the start of my first ayahuasca experience, coming up from the ground, coming up through the roots of the floors of the forest, coming up through the trees, symbolic of spiritual energy vibrations, the demonic stuff that was there dealing with Jack when I saw that demon in a vision. And I know now this is low-level spiritual vibration stuff, which I'm so far above there. That's why when you get clean and you're spiritually very clean, you rise above those vibrations. They can't affect you because they can't resonate with you, as I've said many times before. So if I'm now at a spiritual vibration level in an ayahuasca ceremony where I'm in the realm of Mama Ayahuasca herself, rather than her coming down to my level, if you like, to talk to me, to actually have access to that, I'm up here. And of course that made me realize why Colin couldn't see me, because he's not going to have access to that level. And Maestro also, probably in his own way, he doesn't necessarily, he sees energies like pain and stuff for dark energy, because it's about dark, and cleaning is about dark energy removal. So he in a ceremony from his perspective, you can probably see a lot more because I can't speak Spanish well enough, but this is my real incentive now for next time coming back, really get a grip on Spanish, because I really want to make the most of this opportunity to be able to talk to Maestro and find out. And now that when Gino told him, because we didn't have time for them local because we had to leave on the boat, and he was grabbing his bag, and he said, we'll talk on the boat. So he sat me next to him and got Gino in front, and he was saying, how are you? How was it? And I was just like, in my Spanish, basically, it was just fucking wonderful. Thank you so much, and then I explained to Gino, who already knew, and then he re-explained it to Maestro about me, his visions, and then what happened because obviously he already knew Brandon's story, and then my interpretation of it, he went, yes, yeah, makes, effectively, yeah, that's right. He wouldn't be able to see you because of where you are. So I was just on cloud nine coming back on the boat, thinking, and Mama has said, give this as a parting gift to make you realize that your future lies here with your continuing journey with dietas and the plant medicine. But no guarantees on what comes after it. I only, and I'd said this to Maestro and Gino. I said the previous few days ago, I said to Gino, having a chat, I said, I never know what I'm doing. I said, my path, I'm going away, but the idea is to come back. Depends on, visa and stuff. I said, because my path's always open. I said, Mama never tells me anything about a future. She's never told me. She just tells me a little bit, maybe up to the next kind of waypoint. And that she's done it again as well, which did actually tell me a bit more. But as kind of give me that real, because I'm just enjoying it so much. This week, the last 2 weeks has been absolutely brilliant. Seeing Colin just come a full circle. We were talking at breakfast with Josh, and I said, you've been amazing. I said, I've never seen anyone come in the relative state that you were in with your situation and go through 2 weeks and have such a circle of completion in that space of time to become what you have become in 2 weeks. It's absolutely amazing, and Joshua agreed. It's just the transformation in Colin was just unbelievable and absolutely beautiful thing to witness. So it was just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful ceremony. And then back afterwards, I'm still tripping pretty heavy. Again, a couple of hours, a couple of trips to the bog before settling down, but kind of did manage to eat my apple and that sort of stuff. So, but feeling there's physical, it was even hard to puke. I got back to the room knowing that, like as always, you always have to, just because there's, ayahuasca's found dark energy and it makes your stomach uncomfortable. But it wasn't even enough to make me want to vomit. And when I stuck my fingers down my throat, it was difficult to get anything out. It was like, oh, Jesus, nothing's coming. And Mum saying, something is there, though. As you know, you've always got to get it out. There for ages trying to get, and then the first bit comes and then it tastes horrible, so that helps. And you're like, oh, I'm starting to get something, and then just enough. And then a few goes, and then she's saying, one more. Oh, fuck, it's difficult. No, one more. And then something comes up, and it's like, oh, I'm done. Okay, and then just brush your teeth, and that's that, really. So the insight into it was just such an unexpected delight to know, after what I came here for was with the intention of doing a year of dietas just to get as much of a shamanic experience as possible out of what I've heard has been told. There was an 8-year journey, 10-year journey to become a shaman, and I didn't want to do it. Didn't have an intention to be a shaman because it's too difficult, so that was never the intention. And Mama hasn't said anything more about that. It's like, no, but you had the interest, and doing the dietas is the journey, and that's what you were curious about, and that's again your gift for continuing to stay on the path, as is your destiny. It's your destiny, Luke. So just a beautiful space to be in, and know that I'm not just wandering aimlessly. I was just thinking, I've got to keep just doing fucking plant ayahuasca and plant dietas with no knowledge of what the future is. But now the experience are such that they're so wonderful. I'm happy just to keep doing more and getting even more spiritually clean, and then just see what unfolds, because it's such a beautiful thing to be in this position. 45 ayahuasca ceremonies, 5 dietas, a state of spiritual cleanliness that I would never have imagined. And physical cleanliness, because obviously you've got to get physically clean before you can get spiritually clean. It's just the way it works. I mean, yeah, they're both happening at the same time to a degree, but really you need to have the spiritual cleanliness before, the physical cleanliness before you can, because you've got to get all your baggage removed. You've got to be taught. You've got to have all of the lessons that Mama gives you. You've got to have your mind opened into so many other possibilities, and just the way, what version of a reality that becomes your belief system that she's giving to you personally as part of your healing and part of your spiritual growth. So anyway, it'd be interesting to see if this count up timer stops at 45:35. So I may as well go, and if it gets cut off, you'll know it was just because it didn't continue for lack of memory space, I assume. Until I haven't cleared all the other videos off the phone yet. That's why. So 128 gigs getting filled up, because these videos are an hour long. They can be like 12, 16 gig of size. So this one, because I'm back on the shitty modem, it's fucking 3G slow as fuck. It'll have to be shrunk on the laptop and then sent So, but basically that's everything covered. The lads, we just did a bit of shopping just to fill in for this timer. It's about to go 30 seconds. So yeah, Colin, they bought a couple of bits and bobs, and Brandon bought a dress and whatnot for his wife, and his a dream catcher for his daughter, and whatever. So, and his shirt for himself. So we spend up about $250 of spending, which was nice to go to the little shops and be with them and to speak a bit of Spanish for them to the shopkeepers. So, 5 seconds. Is it going to stop? 2, 1, 0, 0.